Let's talk about a system that's absolutely critical to our industrial world, but it's one that's designed to be completely invisible. It's called mechanical integrity. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see how it transforms from just another cost on a spreadsheet into a real, powerful, competitive advantage.
To really get why mechanical integrity is so important, I think we have to start by looking at what happens when it's just not there, because the consequences are way, way bigger than just a few minor headaches.
So, think about this for a second. What happens when the people who know a facility like the back of their hand just leave? They retire, they move on, and all that crucial knowledge goes right out the door with them. The short answer? Chaos.
And this right here, this is what that chaos actually looks like. It's a domino effect, right? It starts small. A critical inspection report for a pressure vessel is buried somewhere on a server nobody can find. Then, your most experienced engineer retires and poof, decades of maintenance history vanish. Before you know it, an auditor is coming, and your team is spending weeks, literally weeks, scrambling to find paperwork from a dozen different disconnected systems. Every single one of these little failures opens up a new vulnerability, and as we've seen time and again from Chemical Safety Board reports, that domino effect can end in absolute catastrophe.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be that way. There is a structured, strategic answer to all that chaos, and this is where mechanical integrity comes in, not as a panicked reaction, but as the very foundation of a well-run operation.
So what exactly is mechanical integrity, or MI as you'll hear it called? Well, at its heart, it's a whole program for managing the physical guts of a facility. The pipes, the tanks, all the machinery. But here's the key takeaway. This is so much more than just ticking a box for a regulator. It's a strategic framework that actually gives you control. Control over your operations, control over your safety, and ultimately control over your bottom line.
A really solid MI program stands on three core pillars. It delivers on three absolutely critical fronts: keeping people safe, making sure you're compliant, and creating real, tangible financial value.
First up, and this is non-negotiable, is safety. This is the moral imperative, right? The number one goal of any MI program is to make sure that every single person who walks onto that site walks off safely at the end of their shift. It's the most important barrier we have against what are known as loss of containment incidents. And those are the really bad days when hazardous materials get out, with potentially devastating results for people and the planet.
Now let's talk compliance. What I love about this visual is that it shows you just how complicated this world is. It's not like there's one rule book. Nope. You've got federal agencies like OSHA and the EPA setting the baseline. Then you have industry groups like the American Petroleum Institute with their own standards. Then you layer on specific state regulations and sometimes even local rules on top of that. Trying to navigate this spider web without a really good system, it's almost impossible.
And that brings us to the third pillar, value, the dollars and cents. To really get a feel for the financial stakes, just look at this number. $15,000. That's a typical price tag for just one single hour of unplanned downtime at a petrochemical plant. And believe me, that's a conservative number. That's just the lost production. It doesn't even touch the cost of repairs, overtime, or the ripple effects across the entire supply chain.
But here's the flip side of that coin. What if a great MI program prevents just 40 hours of that downtime over a whole year? That's less than one work week. The value you've just created is $600,000. All of a sudden, the entire conversation changes. The money you spend on mechanical integrity, it's not a cost anymore. It's one of the highest return investments you could possibly make.
So, we've firmly established the why, but what about the how? How do modern facilities actually do this? Well, they do it with an incredible toolkit of new and emerging technologies.
One of the biggest game changers has been moving away from old-school inspection methods. The traditional way was kinda dumb, frankly. You just inspect everything, every 5 years, whether it needs it or not. The new approach is way smarter. It's called risk-based inspection, or RBI. It uses data to figure out which pieces of equipment have the highest risk of failure, and then you focus your precious time and resources right there. It's all about working smarter, not just harder. And this data-driven approach is being supercharged by a massive digital transformation. I mean, this stuff is cool. We have robots that can crawl into hazardous environments to collect data, keeping people out of harm's way. We have digital twins, perfect virtual copies of real assets that let us run simulations and predict problems before they happen. We've got AI that can spot patterns in the data that a human could never see, and mobile tech puts all of this power and information directly into the hands of the inspector out in the field.
But, and this is a really, really big but, all of that amazing futuristic technology is completely worthless without one thing: good data. This chart tells a story that's often hidden: the sheer cost of disorganization. For a plant that has its act together, moving all the data for one piece of equipment into a new system might take a couple of hours. But for a disorganized facility, we're talking 10+ hours. The foundation of modern MI isn't just shiny tech, it's clean, organized, high-quality data, period.
So all of this is leading to a really fundamental shift in thinking. It's about taking mechanical integrity out of the maintenance department's budget and putting it right where it belongs, at the heart of the business strategy.
What we're really talking about here is an evolution. We're moving away from being reactive, just doing chores to stay out of trouble, and becoming proactive. We're playing offense. And as the source material so perfectly puts it, this shift represents one of the most significant opportunities available to modern industrial facilities. At the end of the day, true success doesn't come from just buying a new piece of software. It comes from a change in perspective. It's about seeing mechanical integrity not as some siloed maintenance task, but as a fully integrated business system that connects and drives everything, from the safety of your people all the way to the final numbers on your balance sheet.
Which brings us to one last question to think about. In this complex, invisible world of pipes and pressure and processes that powers our entire lives, maybe the most advanced piece of safety equipment, the most important protective barrier we have, is simply knowledge.